social thing that it's understood that you will purge those feelings before really committing to the next one.
One thing that helps in a polycule, so in a polycule, I think there's more honesty, more communication, more discussions about feelings than in a regular monogamous relationship. Now, I may be, overreaching there, but it's kind of one of those things that I at least I feel is, extremely important in a polycule. Mm-hmm. And so you have to discuss this stuff. You have to. If somebody's feeling a certain way, like, hey, X became X, I came out and said, look, I'm having some serious issues, and I don't know if I can be with this person and get myself better. And so it's stuff like that. I had to come out. It was a hard conversation, but it came out.
Well, there's more people to bounce your feelings and your concerns off of. So you can get more feedback. You can get more clarity. You can verbalize it to allow it to clarify for yourself, because sometimes just saying things helps us come to a different level of clarity than if we kept it all bottled up inside.
That's true. You have more people to use as a sounding board than anything.
We wish everybody well in their relationships, but it's important to be able to get toxic relationships out of your life. And it's also, the thing is with polyamory, you also have to have that radical transparency that you were talking about, that radical honesty, that absolute self-introspection that you have to have, because you hide things from yourself before you hide them from other people. You can convince yourself of almost anything if you think about it hard enough.
Yeah, and
in a situation where you've got more than one, and I highly recommend this for any monogamous people out there, practice radical honesty with your partner.
Honestly,
it can only lead to good things. Hard things occasionally. You have to have the hard talk sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
And some of this will, some of your hard talks will be relationship damaging, ending, stretching, stressing. But honestly, when it comes down to that, shouldn't it have happened anyway?
One reason why we're doing this episode after the other episodes we did red flags, we did green flags, and now we're doing breakups. And I think one of the main things to get out of these episodes is the removal of toxic people in your life.
Not just that, but the bringing in of healthy people in your life.
Exactly.
Which is the most important thing.
Right. And so that's why we're doing, this episode on breakups, because and we're gonna kind of go a little wild on this episode as to like subjects and topics and all this other stuff. But we're good because staying on topic when it comes to this stuff is on such a wide topic. We're not going to be any kind of narrow on this one.
Also, none of us made a list.
For instance, you want to talk about widening the conversation. The radical transparency trickles over into all of the other relationships in your life.
Oh, yes.
Being radically transparent with your friends really, really helps deepen the connection in the relationship. And, voicing how you're feeling, trying to do it in the most healthy and cohesive way, I guess, respectful way is best for anything, really. But it trickles over, and then you start feeling your worth because you are voicing those things. Yeah. And if the people are good for you, they're going to help you work through those things, or come back and counter what you're saying. Right. Like, well, this and this, but okay, you're feeling this way, this is what happened, and then you work on it and go from there. And that goes through friendships, relationships with your family. If somebody hurts your feelings, then maybe in the past you kind of just let it go, and that a small amount of doing that is probably expected.
Right.
But you tell your family, no, like, hey, this happened, and I really felt this kind of way about it, and whatever. So the more you start doing that, the more radically transparent you are with your partners, the more you're going to see you're doing it in other areas of your life as well.
That is very true. And
radical transparency is very important for all of us for different reasons. For the dominant personality, it helps people understand your motives. For the passive people pleasers, it gives you a voice. Mm-hmm. Because when you get used to speaking your truth, you start getting stronger about advocating for yourself and creating those healthy boundaries. And it helps for the dominant people on the other side of it, listening to the truth, it helps them understand that there are boundaries that they hadn't seen before because they don't notice such things without somebody telling them bluntly.
Yeah, but at the same time, that I got to say that radical transparency is what led to my last breakup with X.
Yeah.
Because I had to be completely honest about how I felt. I had to, help myself get better. I had to help myself move forward, and I could not do that with her in my life. And it was one of those things where, we kept feeding off each other, and it just ended. It was just not good for anybody around us. So I had to break it off. And that was simple. As it sounds simple, but Jesus Christ, whenever we have, a quad and kids and
we're all four sharing a bedroom, and that's the nasty end of the breakup.
Right. It's like, how do you do this? Jay and Crow were still dating. Jay and X were still dating. Crow and X were still married. And I was the oddball out, so to speak. I was still with Jay, but that was it.
Yeah.
And so we're sharing a room and sharing a bed with exes. So that's kind of stuff you got to think about. Yeah. It's not, and trust me, that was not an easy time at all.
A lot of people can tell you from the outside, that simple statement, right? But they don't think about all of the things that go into it. I don't know, maybe you have a triad, or you have a, quintuplet or something, and you have so many different facets to your gemstone of a relationship, and they have really no inkling, unless they've been some sort of intimate connection to your life, how you all interweave. So for them to make simple statements, people were making statements to us all the time.
Oh yeah.
Very insensitive, just inconsiderate.
Yes.
Blunt. And were they right? Absolutely. But it hurt. And it was like, well, that's easy for you to say on the outside looking in.
Right. People always judge what they see. They will always do it. They look at it, they get their version of the facts,
right?
And then
but they only see the surface of it. They will never. Most people, unless you have really good friends, they will only see the surface level.
Right. It's one of those things. It's like Jay said. Some of them, a lot of times, they were right. When I began the divorce process with X, guess what? Everybody I talked to blamed
the poly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was always. That's what their mind went to first. Whether they were poly or monogamous, that's what they went to first. And it always assumed then it was my fault.
Mm-hmm. Because you're staying in a polycule.
Because obviously that's what happened, right? And no, it didn't. So it's one of those things that, no, that was not the reason. No, it really didn't have anything to do with it other than the fact that practicing radical transparency and being around non-toxic supportive people gave me the strength to do something I probably should have done 22 years ago.
Right. And that's what a lot of people are they're not going to base it off of history. They're not going to base it off of the facts. Yeah. And I always say this, okay, there's two sides to every story. Uh-huh. In the middle is where the truth is. No matter, you're going to be the victim or the villain in somebody's story, no matter what anybody says. Mm-hmm. And that's how it always is. And so you can guarantee that. Now, when it comes to polycule and breakups and stuff like that, you want to talk about complications?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know
how difficult it is not to choose a side? when
you got an octagonal side,
right?
Look, it's a pentagon.
And it's hard to convince people to stay neutral when they saw the things happen.
Right.
Well, and then when you're all in a relationship and one person has decided to break it off or has been broken up with, and you're having to be there for all of the people,
right?
The people that did the breaking up and the people who were broken up
Let's just say I put Jay and Crow in a very awkward, bad. I don't even know what kind of position. Like seeing it, I honestly, it's so hard for me to see from their perspective as the position that I put them in. But they knew what I did was right for me. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it didn't look that way.
No, it did. We had conversations prior to that.
Right.
I think the frustrations that came from that
I don't think I took it well when I first.
Oh, you didn't.
No.
You didn't. No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
No, neither one of you did.
No.
And I don't blame y'all. I don't.
Well,
I
there
don't
were a
hold
lot
any-
of other things going on too at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't blame y'all, and I don't hold anything against y'all for that either.
It was one of those things where we told you we saw it coming, and we saw it way before you did, when you were still trying to deny that was a thing, and then we were trying to move forward to fix things, and then boom, all of a sudden
Things just fell apart.
the truth bomb came. But we were here and we worked through it, and we grew, and we were there for each other. We still are. We still are. We're still healing. We're still going through all of the things, and that's just it. Another thing about breakups. One quick thing I wanted to mention is that you're going to probably split friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any mutual friends that you had are going to be split.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth about that. And actually, that was one of the things my oldest friend said straight out to me. He said, "Yeah, it's a divorce. You split the friends. I'm yours." And that was you get me. Sorry.
And as a byproduct, so did I. So I'm totally, I'm benefiting from that.
Yeah.
Because he has a whiskey collection that you just can't beat. Oh my God. Not only that, but he's right. He's an amazing person.
He really
He
is.
really is.
I can never even. I mean, he even says it like repaying him is not something to even. So you don't compare like, oh, I need to repay you for this. It's like, no, that's not how this friendship works.
We don't keep track.
We don't keep track.
Yeah, they're family.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, generally speaking, you try to stay neutral during an argument, and you try to stay neutral and let people work things out as things escalate, and you try to be supportive of both of them. But how do you do that when you're absolutely, to you, from your perspective, one of them is absolutely wrong?
Yeah.
It's hard to be supportive of that person. And the thing is even as you're trying to maintain a certain level of neutrality and you see one of them extremely upset and you go to comfort them, that can be taken as an act of like choosing sides.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever we say, during any kind of separation, you're going to split friends, how do you handle this in a polycule?
Yeah.
You're splitting still. I mean, like Chris, saying is like you're not choosing sides, but comforting your other partners is choosing sides.
Right.
That's how it's seen, regardless of anything. That's how it's seen. It's like, well, Jay's still married to me. She's comforting me.
Yeah.
And Crow was guilty of being on my side because he's comforting Jay when I'm not there.
Right.
And so it gets a little complicated. And
I was comforting X because it was hurt, from you. So it was like, what? Yeah, it gets complicated.
We went through a lot of Kleenex, and not in a good way.
No.
No. You have to think, too, when you're integrated as a family in your polycule, that there's a lot of other details that are going to go into that, and not just talking about heartbreak or anything. Are your finances interwoven? Are your kids, what happens? Are you going to let the kids still see each other if they're little ones, and they don't have the ability to keep that communication up themselves? It gets a little complicated.
Right. And that goes, it all depends on how integrated your family is or how integrated your polycule is.
Yeah, if you got kids that consider each other siblings, and they're siblings by poly, and you go your separate ways, personal opinion, not knowing all of the situation, and everybody's situation is unique and different, but if it's at all possible, let those kids see each other.
Yeah.
Even if you have to see your ex, set something up so that they can spend time together.
Put your feelings aside for the kids. It's not easy, but it's hard for them too. And that was one thing. And whenever you have kids that are young, you can pass certain things, but whenever they get older and they know what's going on, the kids know more than what they're letting on to, and more than you'll realize. And they see a lot of things that go on. When things are rough, they see it, they feel it, they know it. And so you need to be upfront with the kids too, to a certain level.
Taking care of the kids
because
of a breakup.
Yeah. So taking care of the kids is a primary thing.
Because they're going to be hurting too.
Oh.
Right. But another thing is that whenever Jay and I got into this relationship with Crow and X, our daughter, before we were integrated, we told her, look, this is what's happening. We're going to be moving in. We need to keep up with you too to make sure everything's okay. And